Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen as of now. Yeah, so Paola and I were presenting on our paper Connections, Participatory Art as Factor for Social Cohesion. And most of you will know me, but just very briefly about myself. I am an artist and creative practitioner, and I'm also a researcher at the National Center for Computer Animation. And I focus specifically on participatory arts practices in both my art and research. And today I'm presenting together with Paola Dalbore. And Paola, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, IVA London, for having us. And thank you, Oliver, for introducing me. I'm Paola Dalbore, and I'm an independent researcher and professional practitioner working in the arts and museums field. I'm particularly interested in the possibilities of social and cultural change explored through arts and facilitating arts towards the public. So today we would like to talk about 4 participatory art projects that contribute to social cohesion through diverse strategies. Before handing it over to Oliver to present 4 case studies, I will make a brief introduction on the relation between art and technology. So in the 1990s, artists began to explore the basis of social participation and interaction, and also started to show a keen interest in the possibilities offered by new digital technologies. As stated by Christian Paul, adjunct curator of new media arts at the Whitney Museum, from the 1990s to the early 21st century, the digital medium has undergone technological developments of unprecedented speed. Hardware and software became more refined and affordable, and the advent of the World Wide Web added a layer of global connectivity. However, nowadays, we are more and more aware of the issues posed by the widespread use of technology. That is, for example, the collection and accumulation of huge amounts of personal data for profit purposes. New media artists began to interrogate themselves on the very nature of new technologies and on the various ways they can affect society. So on the one hand, we have empowerment and emancipation. On the other hand, control and abstraction. In this context, interactive and immersive digital art practices could be thought as a form of resistance to abstracted existences, thanks to the intrinsic capacity for enhanced user participation through a return to the body and to perceptual-based experiences. In the words of Christian Paul, again, we are now confronted with complex possibilities of remote and immediate intervention that are unique to the digital medium. This way, new forms of interaction and non-linear thinking are encouraged. The potential for new forms of interaction and engagement can be enhanced by digital technologies, thus allowing for the individual to turn from passive viewer to active participant and co-creator of the artwork. In this regard, also participatory art affirms the active role of audiences in the creation of the artwork, stressing the importance of events and processes that engender social interactions. This generates a convergence between participation, art, and digital technologies, and also deepens the exploration of notions of collaboration and community within the arts. As highlighted by artist and academic Simon O'Sullivan in his book Art Encounters Deleuze and Guattari from 2006, collective and collaborative practices deliberately turn away from the production of individualist and atomized subjectivities. I'd like now to briefly introduce two opposite opinions about the potential of participatory art. On the one hand, we have the position of French curator and art critic Nicolas Bourriaud, who theorizes a new definition for the artistic practices that arose in the 1990s, relational aesthetic. In his opinion, interactivity, conviviality, and the relational component in contemporary art practices are highly important. In the context of relational aesthetics, the artist works in the sphere of interpersonal relationships and modes of social exchange. The main aim is to produce alternative models of social participation and conviviality, where art is conceived as an instrument of emancipation. An important feature of these practices lies in the refusal of the artwork as an object. On the other hand, art historian and critic Claire Bishop, in her article Antagonism and Relational Aesthetics, published in 2004 in October, the academic journal specializing in contemporary art, addresses a critical remark to the discourse surrounding relational aesthetics, expressing doubts about the types of relations being produced. In particular, because the relations established by relational aesthetics are not intrinsically democratic, as suggested by Bourriot instead. Moreover, according to Claire Bishop's opinion, the aesthetics is being sacrificed on the altar of social change. The discourse, she argues, has focused mainly on the project's socially ameliorative effect, to the point where the work's aesthetic value is neglected. I will now leave you with the following question. Where do we stand on this topic? I now hand it over to Oliver, who is going to present the 4 participatory art projects.
Thank you so much, Paola. Yeah, so today we're going to present 4 different case studies of my own participatory art practice, focusing on various different aspects and seeing whether we can consolidate these 2 different points of views. The first one, The Crack, was produced a year ago, initially at Akava's Maxilla Space in the context of an exhibition for the Grenfell community. The exhibition in particular focused on intelligent matter and the idea that, yeah, matter has various different properties. I was looking at concrete in particular, which has a dual nature, on the one hand side being one of the top CO2 polluters worldwide, and on the other hand, there's recent research from Stony Brook University in New York that concrete, when broken up, actually can absorb sulfur, so can actually help to absorb some of the particle pollution, which is interesting. So in actual fact, if you were to break up some of these concrete jungles that we're surrounded with, they would be able to help to absorb some of the pollution around us. And the exhibition had very much a community angle, a community focus. We invited K. Aldrich, which is one of the schools that has been most affected by the tragedy here, to participate. And I tried to make this very complex subject accessible using NeuroArt and biofeedback tools. So in this case, it was a very simple mechanism of measuring concentration and allowing the participants, in this case, the community, to drive these cracks in the wall through the concentration. And yeah, the piece really led to a discussion of the subject and also really allowed the audience, the participants, to actively explore the topic, yeah, through being personally involved. Yeah, I think in terms of the effect of the piece, we did not try to measure any data, capture any data. This was not a scientific study. It really had, it was an art piece in its own right. And yeah, the idea was to create something that is visually pleasing, obviously has a participatory nature, but on the other hand, really has a this kind of dual function of raising awareness for yeah, the fact that cement, our most used material on the planet, is also one of its top polluters. The next project I wanted to quickly present is Aya the Sign, which was done 2 years ago for the 1-year anniversary of the Grenfell fire, also here in North Kensington, together with my colleague Sarah Chowdhury, who works specifically with Islamic digital art. Yeah, this was important because the majority of the victims in Grenfell were of Islamic cultural heritage. And so we wanted to create workshops that were yeah, specifically for them. And Sarah made her art practice available, working with audiences of all ages, yeah, tiny little kids to adults, to create these beautiful patterns and then digitize them, and we animated them into a collaborative artwork. We did have problems playing films before. I hope I can show this little video and talk over it. But essentially what we did is we then captured these different pieces and showed them as a projection mapping piece opposite the Grenfell Tower on the Kensington Leisure Centre. And the workshop took part hand in hand with an exhibition. So all of the participants were able to see their work side by side with established digital artists, Sarah Hussein, Sarah Chowdhury, and Ben Johnson as part of this exhibition. So yeah, this was a really rewarding project because it, on the one hand side, broke up these, sometimes inaccessible digital processes to kids of all ages, and also allowed the community to really come together to create a collaborative art piece that combined all of the individual efforts into one piece that was then shown and projected opposite the tower. So I'll just finish with showing this. I hope you can actually see it. So yeah, it was then projected and also shown as part of the Portobello Film Festival. The next project I wanted to quickly touch upon is a project we completed last year, Kima Voice, together with the Analemma Group. The Analemma Group is an art collective that I've been part of for now 10 years, founded by my colleague Eugenia Emets. And we're focusing specifically on this connection between sound and vision, the relationship between these two senses. Yeah, we were lucky to have been invited to various different large institutions, but also smaller festivals. And this installation was done in collaboration with the HEART study, which is a larger study that looks at the effect of participatory art on social connectedness, conducted by the Center for Performance Science, which is part of Imperial College and the Royal College of Music. And we were working with my colleague Ula Timoshuk to not only present this artwork, but also then to capture and see and to gain an understanding whether participatory arts can indeed have an effect on social connectedness, perceived social connectedness or not. And yeah, the piece itself had definitely predominantly an aesthetic agenda. So we were looking to map sound vocal signatures and sound signatures onto this Fibonacci spiral. And the idea is that sounds, depending on the frequency, the amplitude, and also the attack, and translate into this Fibonacci spiral that you see swirling around here. And as soon as two people create meaningful harmonies, so we measured them just comparing different frequencies by two different microphones, and we would then visually represent these harmonies in visual form. And the idea was really for the audience to be able to harmonize, to find resonance between their voices. And these were very often people who didn't know each other at all. And we measured this. It was a very popular installation at the Great Exhibition Road Festival. We had 144 participants in the study. And yeah, we were actually quite happy with the results. So we were able to show that there is indeed a link between social connectedness and our participatory art installation, not so much for loneliness or more long-term indicators of mental health, but definitely for happiness and feeling in tune with one another. And the last project I quickly wanted to touch upon is Kima Noise, which is also a project conducted in collaboration with the Analemma Group. And Kima Noise was presented last year at the Tate Exchange, the Tate Modern. And here we were looking at the effect of urban noise on health and well-being, working with Professor Stephen Stansfield from Queen Mary University of London. And the audience was invited to design their own soundscape. We measured and captured different sound inputs and noise inputs from the vicinity of the Tate Modern. So at these various different areas, train station, a park, and on the balcony of the Tate. And then basically streamed these into the space of the Tate Exchange and invited the audience to design their own trajectories of noise using these different streams and to kind of feel how they can curate their own soundscape. So this changed the agency quite a bit from being just a recipient of, and noise that surrounds us to having a degree of control over it. And that was very much the intention of the piece as well. Hand in hand with this sonification, we also created a visual representation of these art pieces projected onto the windows of the Tate. And the idea was that during daytime, you could actually see through and would be able to see kind of the cityscape around it. yeah, as I said, this was very much part of a wider discussion on the effect of urban noise on health and well-being, and we were really focusing on this aspect of how participatory art can be a factor of social change. There is a film that has been created as part of the installation. The teaser of the film is online. So yeah, I would very much invite you to have a look and enjoy Kima Noise and the research that went into it on our Analemma Group YouTube channel. Now, just to summarize, the effect of participatory art on health and well-being has been proven repeatedly, including social connectedness and the effect on how close we feel to one another. And yeah, so there's been specifically recent research that really went into this idea of meaningful connections, the potential for participatory art to bring communities together, and especially in times like these when we're all more disconnected, yeah, it feels that we really have a role to play in this context. And it's encouraging to see that there is a wider public discussion around the subject, including all parliamentary reports. Yeah, there's several research groups that are dealing with this. And yeah, it's also part of my own research focus, really to see how we can add to this body of evidence around the effect of participatory art. Paola, I'm going to hand back over to you.
Thank you, Oliver. So at this point, I'd like to link back to my earlier question, where do we stand on this topic? And I want to highlight the fact that the 4 case studies here presented.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Paola, but we must finish in 1 minute from now.
Yes, I will be super quick. The fact that 4 case studies here presented offer some examples of how productive and the intersection between digital art and participatory art could be. These projects aim to raise awareness for pressing societal issues, working directly with local residents, local authority, and art institutions in order to open up a discussion that helps to build connections and bring people together. As well as it stimulates to find out individual and communal strategies to tackle pressing issues in their environment. Technological tools used in the art projects facilitate awareness of how and why those issues are critical through heightening subjective perceptions and building up a collective understanding, supporting citizen empowerment in the decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver and Paola, for that well-timed presentation, which you got through so much. Oliver, I think your work and Paola's work is a prime example of how art, new media art in particular, can act as a behavioral trigger. I mean, you're calling it participatory, but what actually happens, people react to what you've done, and it changes their attitudes to various subjects, like noise, which you made a particular feature. I mean, I think that is an aspect of what, to an extent, we all do, but you do it in particular with Paola. It is, in fact, to act as an avenue of change for the future. I'm thinking of things like climate change, where people's attitude is not just changing technology. You actually got to change people's attitudes to life. And I feel that's where